never give me shit. Now I got receding hair, Chuck Taylor's got a guitar by Joe Naylor. Everyone my age got like 7 kids, and all I wanna do is make stupid YouTube vids. Fuck the fortune, fuck the fame. I want a girl in her 20s to scream my name. And because I have no sense of self-worth, I can convince myself for a moment in time that I'm cool. I just wanna be cool. I just wanna be cool. I just wanna be cool. My ex-girlfriend said that I was the nicest guy she ever dated. Later on in the relationship, she said that what she meant by that was I was the most square. What, because I do spreadsheets instead of cocaine? I just wanted to be something good in her life. I just wanted her to think I was cool. I just wanna be cool. I just wanna be cool. I just wanna be cool.
Norwood Fisher on the brain.
That guy is cool.
Who's cool? You're cool. Who's cool? I'm cool. It's really a subjective thing. Actually, it's a matter of opinion. Who's cool? He's cool. She's cool. They're cool. Whatever pronoun you identify as, you are cool. Cool, cool, cool. Than a bitch. Cool, cool, cool. 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 I just wanna be cool. I just wanna be cool. Maybe one day I'll accept that I'm not cool. Maybe I will never have the courage to get a Gigi Allen stick and poke tattoo. Maybe I'm the type of dude that wears dad shoes to LA Fashion Week. I'm not cool.
It's okay, Neil. At least your mom thinks you're cool. Since I can remember, I wanted to be cool. Cool. Even in my high school tenure. And these bitches never give me shit. Now I got receding hair, Chuck Taylor's got a guitar by Joe Naylor. Everyone my age got like 7 kids, and all I wanna do is make stupid YouTube vids. Fuck the fortune, fuck the fame. I want a girl in her 20s to scream my name. And because I have no sense of self-worth, I can convince myself for a moment in time that I'm cool. I just wanna be cool. I just wanna be cool. I just wanna be cool. My ex-girlfriend said that I was the nicest guy she ever dated. Later on in the relationship, she said that what she meant by that was I was the most square. What, because I do spreadsheets instead of cocaine? I just wanted to be something good in her life. I just wanted her to think I was cool. I just wanna be cool. I just wanna be cool.
Hey everyone, how you doing? Hey everyone, how you doing? Check, check, check. He. All right, it's noon. It's Saturday, which means it's SUPcast Live. This is episode 37 of the thing I started in my van, and then COVID happened, and then now I'm doing it on a computer. I'm on a computer, and I've been talking to Norwood since COVID broke out and since the quarantine happened about coming back on the show. Had him on the show. He was one of the earlier episodes, like episode 13. We're on episode 37 now, and we talked about it. I want to say like a couple months ago, and it just didn't work out for some reason. And he said he wanted to do it this week, and then this week all hell broke loose. So we're gonna talk about a lot of shit, and we're gonna get fucking real. So without further ado, I'm just gonna let's just get Norwood in here and let's start fucking talking. Let's talk. But I hope everyone's doing well. All things considered, a lot of people are really fucking angry, and rightfully so. And there's a lot of white folks that are very outspoken right now, and from all that I can gather, I think what we need to do is we need to take time to really fucking listen and try and understand what's going on and why things have affected people the way that they have. So let's talk to Norwood here, and let's see what he has to say, and let's try to fucking listen. So let's get into it. Let's get fucking into it. Hello. Oh, that looks nice. Hey, what's up, man?
All right.
Oh, here we go. Keep talking so I can get your level.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Keep talking.
I was watching you on the YouTube contraption.
Cool. Let's get you on full screen here. Let's get gallery. So you've been zooming, man. I see you've been zooming.
Yeah, I got a little, and I plan to do a little more zooming. I'm, the Think Experience band, David Moss, on the From the Earth USA platform has been a lot of fun. Even though it's varied and vast in the conversation, it is, it's particular to what that form, what it means, what it needs, right? So the last one that we did, actually, all of this was in the back of my head. What's going down, right? So
yeah,
it was maybe, but I'm glad to come on here and talk to you about current events.
Well, I appreciate you coming back, man. I know we've been talking about this for some time, but I feel like it's fitting, especially considering that my audience is considerably white, that we have a conversation and we actually, like, some of the people that tune into my shit can open their ears and listen a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So, and
my audience is considerably white too.
Then hopefully.
But it's actually my audience is quite diverse overall. But classically, honest on the real.
Well, yeah, and on the real, especially with the Fishbone social media, you've been outspoken through a lot of this. And what's crazy is seeing some of the Fishbone fans, they don't necessarily line up with your band's politics, and it makes me scratch my head, because I'm like, okay, you're into an overtly political band, but when they say something, you're just like, now, like it, it's kind of like that Paul Ryan dude saying that Rage Against the Machine is his favorite band. Like what?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
Well, you know what? It's like this. Long ago, we kind of figured that there could be people in our audience that didn't hold our same politics. It's like I got a call one day to do a radio show, and I just said yes. I had never heard of the outlet before.
Okay.
And I went and did the interview, and when it was over, the host was really cool. He was a super Fishbone fan. He had seen Fishbone at the Malibu Inn. Him and Angelo had a very tiny little political discourse. I don't know why it didn't get deeper, but when I left, I was talking to somebody about it, and I was like, yeah, I just got finished doing this interview on this radio show, this internet show. It was called Breitbart. Me and Angelo sat down with Michael Breitbart,
wow,
who was a Fishbone fan.
Okay.
It can happen. I don't understand it. You know what? But there's a beauty to it as well.
Yeah.
There's a beauty to it, but it's bizarre, and it's bizarre to me that guy. But it's his platform. But his platform was a different platform at that time than when Steve Bannon took it over. Right? Steve Bannon steered it in a deeper rabbit hole. All of those elements were there, like I don't know all that much because I wasn't checking for Breitbart before I got there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's why I didn't know about it. I had no idea what I was walking into.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point of this where we're at is, Fishbone came on the scene with a particular political bent. Like what we were partying below it, but in our interviews, we made it clear what we were doing. And by the time we got to Truth and Soul, we were like, wait a minute. We saw that people did not understand the satire that we were presenting. All they saw was party band, which is okay. But it was such an overwhelming response to Party Band and the politics of a song like Ugly or Party at Ground Zero were totally missed by a large percentage of our audience.
That was all.
That first EP, Another Generation, as well. Like Line Ass Bitch was not a political song. It was a love song. The Roots made it a political song.
Yeah. Well.
Thank you to Questlove and all the rest of the Roots for that.
Yeah, they got in some hot water for that, huh? Just a little bit.
Yeah, they took a little heat. I got it, man. But it was that what they did was perfect. I'll forever be indebted, grateful for them making that move, and taking a love song by Fishbone, applying it in a way, maybe we utilized it like that on stage, but it wasn't how it was written. So they took a little artistic license, and America got woken up to something the next morning.
What's funny is it was subtle. They didn't recognize it immediately. You had to know the song, and then someone put two and two together, and it was like, oh, they were dogging. That's what was beautiful about it, though. Is like, I think Questlove is like, yeah, we can just slip this in here. And
yes, more power to the Brer Rabbit in him.
Yeah. Well, he's got a lot of love for you. I mean, you guys just reposted the clip talking about when you did the Brooklyn Bowl, and there's the little kid mosh pit. That was a really cool clip.
Man.
He's talking about that ska is what little kids hear inside their head when they're given extra chicken fingers.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if you caught that clip, but that's a good analogy. I like that.
And may ska keep us young for all the rest of our days.
Yeah. I mean, I still feel like I'm 39. I still feel like I'm a little kid, especially talking to a dude like you who I like watched growing up, and I remember seeing the Jamaica ska, and because we had HBO growing up, my parents sprung for HBO, and which was kind of cool because late at night we could see boobs. When like sneak a little boob action late at night.
I understand.
But they played that Back to the Beach movie like repeatedly in the like the late 80s when I was growing up. And and I didn't Fishbone had been putting out I was born in 81, so Fishbone had been together already for 2 years when I emerged. I didn't but yeah, I didn't know. I was like, it's weird when you connect the dots, I saw you on I've been seeing you on TV. I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, the Wayans Brothers movie. Yeah. That I love that movie. And that's what I was just saying in an interview recently about how growing up a white kid in the suburbs but worshiping black culture, and how you have to own that it helped create you, and that's something that I try to own like very publicly, is the fact that, dude, like the name Downtown Brown, and we play fucking funk music. Where did all that shit come from? It's like everything I do is out of appreciation for what has been given to me, and when I first saw Public Enemy and Anthrax in like 91, when they did that mishmash, I didn't know what I was watching, but all I knew is I listened to that over. I bought the tape single. And I listened to it over and over again, and I knew they were fighting against something, but the only thing I fought against on the daily was my fucking dad was a dick. I grew up privileged as fuck. Kind of went off in a little rant there, but I just wanted to put all that out there. It's like what was weird is I was talking to this dude that he plays like kind of reggae, like SoCal reggae music, and I tried to ask him about, like his answer to all of it, like why he does what he does, is just because it makes his butt shake because he feels it. But I think I was expecting a little bit deeper of an answer, like.
Well, okay, so look, the whole world is like partying to the pain of the African American experience. Almost all popular music emanates from, the voodoo that was put down in Congo Square in New Orleans, right? It's every single thing. There's other influences, right?
Yeah.
It's like, Irish music and Scottish influences all sit in there. There's other music from all, but really the root of all the rhythms is voodoo. Voodoo rhythms, Congo Square, and then slave songs, prison chants, prison songs, black experience, black pain, right? It's all goes back to there. And, like we get further and further away from it, and every generation needs to be reminded of these things.
Yeah.
But anyway, the list goes on. The pain is hundreds of years, like centuries of that get us to this point. So, like just really to get to the current situation is like, it's not just one man dying. Like my brain goes back to Rodney King. That's the first time I was born in 1965. In the 70s, there were conversations about this before I started getting fucked with by the police. Like you'd hear the older cats talking about the dangers that they face with the police, getting fucked up by the police. People they knew getting shot by the police. Well, you know what? The older you get, and then it starts happening to you, like actually white people didn't have the experience and couldn't believe it. They were whining ass niggas. I'm sure what was going through their heads. Making up shit again. Woe is me. Right? Like, and so you get these reactions from people. This is personal experience I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right? So it's it's like I'm in a band that is like, we make music for all. Like, I wasn't the only kid in my neighborhood that liked different kinds of music. Like, Black people have worked in my generation and the generations before. We had broad musical interests, and the generations beyond my generation. There's people who are conservative through just culturally conservative. There's Black people that are politically conservative. There's, religious conservative. But there are people who are expansive and exploratory as well. And I looked and I was like, I ain't the only one. I wasn't the only one when I was 14. I wasn't the only one when I was 17. And so anyway, in my mind, Fishbone's music has always been for everybody, but we speak through our personal experience from the beginning, the realities, our fears, our joys, are the things that we loved. And you know what? We loved all kinds of music, and that's why we sound the way we sound. It wasn't calculated. It was just simply some shit that happened.
Yeah.
It was an honest expression, and so it didn't matter to me what color the audience was. I'm like, somebody likes this. I didn't take it for granted that we would be embraced by anybody. Michael Breitbart and whoever the fuck else bought my record. I love it. I love you.
That's cool, man.
Like, really.
That's cool.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, like, my personal Facebook feed is hot sometimes because I will not delete people with different political ideals than me. I believe that we've talked about this before. Yeah. I don't make my friends think, I don't require my friends to think like me.
Or the fans of your band. You're down for.
Yeah, like, think for yourself. I ain't the preacher.
Yeah.
Right? So, but like I said, you and I talked about this before. And like, I actually tried to hold my mind open to the possibility of, like, if somebody was a Republican and they came along and their conversation made sense to me, that I might vote for that man. I'm not walking around with a D on my head, like, tattooed and can't get it off.
Yeah.
But at the point where Trump said I could shoot somebody on 5th Street and get away with it, I'm done. I was done before he got there. But to me, that should be disqualifying. Like, we see, like, if it was a Democrat, the party would have ousted him. So, we live in a time where, you and I may agree that it's insanity from the top down.
Seems that way.
But what is it saying when he has a base that is immovable no matter what he says? Like, that was like, that should have been the canary in the coal mine. We are in trouble. But there's been many points.
Oh, even recently, the tweets about you start looting, we start shooting. He wasn't saying that about the protesters. There's memes going around. The protesters in Michigan were a bunch of fucking white people, and they were armed, you know. And
they actually shut down the state legislature out of fear. That's called terrorism, right? This is an uprising, a revolt, you know. And I'm not going to sit around and nitpick who's there for what. This is a revolt over injustice through and through. And that's all I see. And it's what people should do. I've been in Europe and watched Europeans raise hell. And Americans I watch just take it over and over and over again. Black Americans wanting to do the right thing. You still get people going like, forgive the man. I forgive him. I forgive the man. Every atrocity, the families forgive, right? And the Black families forgive the perpetrators. So there's patterns there to say that the Black community over and over again is actually forgiving. Like white fear is based on the concept that white people deep down inside know that if they were in Black people's shoes, that they would be looking for retribution for all that was done to their ancestry. And if Black people had it in them, it would have already happened, is how I think. The bottom line is, and I'm not a spokesman for the Black community. I'm Norwood. Yeah. I speak for me.
Right.
And if you happen to agree, then we, but I'm not a preacher. I don't claim to be a teacher, a scholar. I'm just a dude with an opinion.
Yeah, that's what I tell people all the time. I'm just a dude. I want to read this Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. quote real quick. This came up. It said, "I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear? ? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed. This was in 1967. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met, and it has failed to hear the large segments of the white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention." And I think that speaks volumes. Still.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. Like it just shows that nothing. I mean, you know what? Things have changed. And there are things that have moved backwards. Like it's and honestly, ultimately, I think the trajectory is possible. I don't know what's happening. The trajectory is possibly towards improvement.
What do you think has regressed, and what do you think? How have we progressed?
Well, right now, like anytime I look up and see protests, and even protests erupting in the uprising, it's actually a pretty diverse group of people I'm seeing. So that at least tells me that there's empathy and understanding. on some level. Like people, like, you know, in Los Angeles, Rodney King uprising, it was looked like it was largely Black and Latino. Right now, a little bit of everybody's in the streets, you know? But so look, let's back up somewhere, because
we got time.
We're actually you came on like, so there's I have a personal opinion about all of this.
Okay.
And it is one, from Rodney King to Eric Garner to fucking George Floyd, to everybody that has been killed or killed by a cop. White people have the convenience to look at the situation and say they must have asked for it. You know, Sandra Bland must have asked for it. You know, there's a convenience when you could say, when George, whatever, if it was a $20, if it even was true that there was a you know, a forgery going on, a $20 forgery cost you your life.
Yeah, I don't buy that shit.
Punishment does not equal the crime if he even was doing it. So so somewhere there's a white person, there's many white people saying he must have deserved it.
You see a lot of shit like that on social media.
Yeah, every time. But every time it goes back as far as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So there's a point where the police actually exists to make white people feel comfortable. Just period. That's why we got the police, right? Well, chasing down slaves, right? is the original thing, right? Get that slave back to the plantation, you know, and drapetomania.
Now that's factual. That's how the police force started, correct?
Correct. That's factual. So
a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, and look up drapetomania.
How do you spell that? Just so.
I
want
to. DRAPTOM. I believe that's it. TOMAINA.
Drapetomania?
Yes. Did I spell it wrong?
It's DRAP as in Paul, TOMANIA.
Yeah, I believe so.
I'm trying to like go on the internet and talk at the same time here. I'm like trying to do three people's shits. But go ahead with what you're saying about because yeah, to protect and serve who is the question.
Exactly. So that's where we begin.
Damn it.
I'm looking it up. That's where we begin, because I now I know I spelled it wrong, because I'm looking it up.
Here, yeah, we have phones too. We have.
All right.
We have ways.
I fucked that up, y'all.
So how do you spell it?
I spelled it wrong. I know that. I'm gonna have to look it up. But
anyway. Here we go. Was conjectural mental illness hypothesized as the cause of enslaved Africans fleeing captivity?
Yeah.
Wow. That's fucked up.
Yeah, I spelled it wrong too. Drapeto.
Yeah, you just missed the E. That's it.
Yeah.
There you go. Smogden cleared it up. Dude on the chat.
So look, anyway. So look, my point goes to actually one, like the comfort level that the police bring white people, that the black population will not rise up and take revenge for what has been done to them ancestrally and currently, right? Like that's what I see, right? So when these things happen, no one wants, they actually like, please keep them niggas in check. Is what that's what I see. And it is, I believe that it is only a conversation that it not only, but it will take white people to stand up and say, this, taking these people's humanity, taking their lives, is not the world we want to be in.
No, fuck that.
Right? So it's like this. When crack was considered a black disease, a black issue, it was something that you should be put in prison for. When narcotics became something that white parents went like, oh, my baby is on drugs, they began to advocate for treatment. Right? That's just one example. It was convenient to make the black man and woman monsters. Knowing what addiction is, it didn't just pop up recently.
Yeah.
You know? So this is what informs me, in that it will probably take for white people to speak to each other. Now, there's a whole nother level of, you know, I don't remember who, what, when. There was conversations about the things that white people say when they're amongst each other.
I've been there. It's a real fucking thing, and they assume. I remember I worked at this catering company, and they're just little punk white kids, but they worshipped Eminem, and they worshiped Lil Wayne, but we would go down into the city, into Detroit, and the same kids that are fucking worshiping black culture are the first kids to fucking say the N-word in reference to like the people we were feeding. And it's like, and they assume just by looking at me that I'm going to go along with that shit. And you and I were already working together at that point. This was back when I still lived in Michigan. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't want to hear that shit. And they look at you like, huh? Like, cause they're used to no one fucking saying anything. They're used to just being able to fucking, like, yeah, it's kind of like that you look both ways shit before you say something shitty. And that's commonplace. And all these kids grew up in the suburbs, and they worship black culture. It makes no sense. It's the ultimate irony. It's insanity. And fuck. But go on with what you were saying. I just kind of went off there.
Hey, but you know what? You drove the point home by like, yes, I've been in those I've been there. That's all.
I mean, I grew up.
That is it. Like, there's like, all we need to know is that, like, that's a real dynamic.
Yeah.
White people can siphon off of black culture and then get together and have these conversations amongst each other, you know, that have nothing to do with the love of the black human beings. You know, in the 50s, I'm sure white people that love Little Richard, Chuck Berry, and Bo Diddley. but please don't step in my restaurant. Don't you dare step in my restaurant through the front door. Man. But I love that music.
It's fucked up. Like, how's that?
You know, so therein lies a disconnect that makes actual progress practically impossible. And those feelings sit still in the white community. You know? So it is like, you know, black people I can talk, but I actually feel like it's a white man to white man, white woman to white woman conversation. Okay, so look, we live in a time right now, marijuana is being legalized nationwide. You know, like we thought that shit would happen in the 70s, in the 80s. When, like, you know, as I was growing older in the 70s, we thought California would do it. You know, I'm encouraged by that as progress. I am encouraged by the LGBTQ community's progress and people that are fighting for those rights. If 1970 whatever, 1980 whatever, I could never imagine that gay marriage would come up as a potential and move forward. I see that as progress.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? There's other things that are happening culturally that I look at as overreaching progress. Like, you know, if fucking Coca-Cola and Carlsberg are making plastic bottles, if they actually make plastic bottles that'll decompose in a year, and that's what we have, progress.
Yeah.
Please let it happen.
Yeah.
You know, the electric car, it ain't perfect. Progress. In the 70s, we heard stories that, you know, some Secret Service dude would show up at some dude that made an electric car and, you know, threaten his life or kill him. You know, like those are the conspiracy theories, you know, that day. Maybe it happened. I don't know. But the fact is, you know, there's good electric cars possible, reducing pollution, progress. You know, there's progress in industry, there's progress in humanity. But the fact is like we live in a system that was built for a few, and it may not be possible to fix the systemic issues. It may need to be torn down and built up. I believe that may be the only way. I'm not sure. I mean, we have an election coming up. I'm absolutely going to vote. But do I believe that Biden represents?
I mean, how could you?
Yeah, no, I ain't buying it. But, you know, is it better than the current president? Yeah. Like, wait. You know, I got a news alert this morning, like, oh, Trump is called for a MAGA rally at the White House. Okay, so now he's actually creating the environment for a civil war, right?
Is that for real? Like
if they show up, they may not show up. Like it's like I would have predicted that the killings of like Breonna Taylor and all of that would have been like I believed that white supremacy wanted race war an insurrection, and that the most recent killings were actually an attempt to jump shit off. The fact that Minneapolis rose up, did a proper uprising, and white supremacists didn't come out of the woods of Wisconsin and the northern parts of fucking Minnesota and North Dakota, you know, and come and ride. I'm like, I was wrong. Like all these uprisings going on nationwide, I would imagine that white supremacists, armed militias of all kinds would have been like, it's on, it's time. But they didn't show up like that.
No,
I was wrong.
They showed up about haircuts and shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Well, I mean, you know what? Thank goodness. I'm glad I was wrong.
Yeah.
But I really did think that the language that they used and them marching around with guns and, you know, open carrying was like, let's get it on.
Yeah,
but now Trump is saying, let's get it on. Calling MAGA, this man has everything at his fingertips. He ain't got to call a MAGA party.
Yeah, he can call the National Guard.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, even
call the National Guard, and if that don't work, call somebody else. There's mechanisms of government in place to deal with it if that's how he really feels. So that is one of the most, like, let's have a war.
Even the difference between these two tweets I have right here, talking about the governor of Michigan should give a little and put out the fire. These are very good people. And then, you know, when the shit in Minnesota started happening, is these thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd, and I won't let that happen. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with him all the way. Any difficulty, and we will assume control. But when the looting starts, the shooting starts, and he put that on Twitter. It's but it's just like night and day. It's like white protesters, armed white protesters. These are very good people, and then
yeah.
When there's the uprising in Minnesota, it's just thugs.
So yeah, he's just driving home the point that, you know, like, you know, he's hey, you know what, he said it all just not very long ago when he spoke at that Ford plant, and he said Henry Ford has, you know, a great bloodline.
Yeah, not
right?
A Nazi bloodline.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's speaking directly, like it was that, I don't know, like a dog whistle. You know, he pulled out the bullhorn if you got ears to hear it. Everybody don't have ears to hear it.
Yeah. Because
Henry Ford's history is suppressed, right? You don't know that your Ford products were actually partially what inspired Nazi Germany to raise hell like they did.
I grew up the city that my mom lives in right now. That's Ford country. Like all the houses were built for Ford employees. My grandpa, lifelong Ford employee, UAW auto. You know, he's just a cog in the machine. Yeah, but definitely like when you grow up in that part of town, and it's just like Henry Ford this, Henry Ford that, hero. You know.
Yeah.
And then you know, there's underlying truth, and it just makes you question everything. Like I said before, I remember being taught in school that Christopher Columbus is a good guy. You know, he's a fucking hero.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if all the death and destruction that ensued suits your fancy, you know,
oh, jeez.
If you could just like, yeah, my way of life. But look, we live in a culture that is content with continuing the legacy of slave labor, right? Because ain't nobody really that mad about prison labor going to work to keep our prices down for the goods, fuck the prison labor shit, is because, okay, there's a part of it like maybe somebody in prison is getting skills. Maybe. But maybe, you know, like you go and fight fires in prison, you can't come out of prison and join the fire department.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Like they ain't having you.
Yeah.
You know, so but and I don't know how many of those jobs that they do actually they come out and are employable.
They're probably just like factory type things.
Yeah, some of them. Some places you can't get a job if your record is dirty to a certain degree, right?
Yeah, if you have a felony, a lot of places won't hire you.
Yeah, so, you know, so anyway, it just looks like slave labor after a while, right? Because you can't raise yourself up from there. But if you just take the fact to really sit and think about the fact that our creature comforts, that our food, a lot of our food at least, not all of it, but there's so much of the Western world's creature comforts are built on the back of somebody in Indonesia, in China, in Mexico that's making $1 a day or, you know, $5 a week, a quarter an hour, you know, like, and you justify it by going like, yeah, but their dollar doesn't mean the same as ours. Fuck you. It's slave labor. So really, until there's a balancing of all of it, we are all fucked. That's how I feel. You have to look out for everybody to be treated with the maximum of respect that a human can get. And that somebody can act in a way that will erode that. But it shouldn't be the color of your skin, where you were born, you know, like a decent wage for the work that you do. At least. Capitalism is built into the name. We are going to capitalize on your unaware ass. So there's a problem with capitalism itself, and I don't know if it can be rectified. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Democracy, on the other hand, has a chance. Democracy has a chance, but the other part is you have to have a well-educated population. So we've missed out on that. The purposeful undereducation of the population of the United States put us in the idiocracy that we're in now.
And that was systemic and planned as well.
So it seems. I've read books on it. I've had a feeling in my gut since I was a teenager, and you know, the school in a white neighborhood that Fishbone was bused to when I was in the 8th and 9th grade held the same information that the books when I was in the 11th and 12th grade, when I went back to school, high school in my own neighborhood.
What was the difference?
I recognized the work, and it pissed me off. I was like, oh, like I'm behind. If I would have stayed in school in the Valley, I would be getting properly educated, and my school was actually not all Black. But the education was substandard because of where it was located.
Yeah, and that's something like where I grew up, I didn't even know that was happening. I'm just like, this is, you know, like I said before when we talked before, like I'm in my bubble. Like, and, you know, I was like, okay, but all schools must be like this. All schools have computer labs. All schools have, you know, fucking, they roll out you know, of a widescreen TV to show a video to the whole. You know what I'm like? I didn't for one second think that, hey, like I'm ultra privileged. My mom never sat me down and she was like, you don't realize how good you have it. It's just you have it. It's just like that's just what was there.
And there's a part of that that makes sense to me, you know, like, but the fact that a lot of people can't hear it makes sense to me. Like, you know, Black people getting disproportionately murdered by police, and you can point to a white person that went to jail. Like, it may be unjustly, but you miss out on the fact that the disproportionate part.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't, by the numbers, it doesn't work like there's equality in it. And that's a convenience. That's a privilege in and of itself. You know? So, but anyway, like, bottom line is I pointed out a bunch of stuff like I don't know the answers, but I hope that one, there's a conversation that's possible that will result in a solution, and we may not see the solution in our time. You know, like, you know, I'm over halfway to 100. So, you know, I don't know that we'll still actually see it, but we have to think deep enough to affect everyone's grandchildren and great-grandchildren to the positive.
Well, because the writing's on the wall. You can't deny it anymore. Like, I can't. There are white people that are like, you know, white privilege doesn't exist, and it's like, how? Like, how can you even arrive at that conclusion when it's all right in front of us? It's fucking explained as plain as day. Like,
yeah, but you know, like that is, you know, cognitive dissonance, right? Like, you can justify it all through whatever means necessary to protect your position, your comforts, your privilege, right? That's all that is like, you know, like, hey, it's the privilege has to be considered an addiction, right? It's like your brain is going like, wait a minute, like, my creature comforts, I deserve this. I'm an American, you know?
yeah, I'm it's hard for me to feel comfortable anymore. Like, I even had a conversation with my mom the other day. It was yesterday, and it was when the shit was going down, and she's just like, you have to try to not let it get to you. And it, like, bless her heart, her heart's in the right place. She just wants her son to not be fucking clawing his eyes out and wondering what the fuck is wrong with the world. But you know, fuck, the creature comforts are gone. If your eyes are like are open in the slightest, I mean, how can you be comfortable knowing that this has been going on for fucking ever? You know? and what do we do now? Like, what can I do? You know? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, look, every time a Black person is killed on camera, you know, and, you know, I'm laughing at the irony that's, you know, what the situation is. Every time a Black person is killed on camera, these conversations erupt, but they are not maintained.
Yeah, it just dies down a little bit, and then people go on to just stupid memes and shit.
Yeah, exactly. And if you continue the conversation, maybe you get labeled as angry or an extremist. And so, in the best of times, people got to understand why Dick Gregory was so intense. They got to understand why, you know, like, why Louis Farrakhan? Like if it looks like, if it seems like it's a kumbaya moment and Louis Farrakhan is raising hell, it's because he understands that all you have gotten was token concessions, that no real meaningful transformation has taken place. Right? So people have to understand. And no, let's say maybe it's impossible for people to understand, some people to understand, because the want to go back into your comfort zone, maybe that's normal. So we have to figure out, like, the psychology. There's an American, the sickness, blacks, whites, everybody is psychologically ill. You know, we have to understand that, diagnose it, and figure out how to approach it. Because, and you and I talked about this before too. One, shaming people into hiding is not the answer. That's how we get where we are. Political correctness as a tool to shame people into hiding did not work.
You're just going to get more of what I saw at the catering company. It's more just like whispers in the shadows, you know, when they know it's safe.
Yes. So there is an open, honest, uncomfortable conversation that America has to have. And if at all possible, with all sides looking for a solution.
What if the people in power don't want a solution? Like, as far as I can gather, they don't give a fuck about a solution.
Well, you know what, Neil? Thank you for putting the me in media. Because fuck the people in power and what they want. And not everybody in power. It may not be enough people in power.
Yeah.
You know, because, hey, I was ready to vote for Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, I felt like he had his agenda would kick open the doors, whether he was imperfect or not. You know, like, I saw him as somebody that would make sweeping change if he had, like, it would still take a lot more government to make it all possible, but he represented something. And there are people that operate in government, I believe, that actually maybe have an agenda that would lean towards the solutions that we're looking for in this that we're taught. I don't suspect we'll come up with the solution here, but there are people who actually are looking for these solutions. They are a minority.
That's what it seems.
And maybe that renders them powerless. I don't know. But, you know, until, I mean, we could be at the moment where we may kind of rise to the occasion of revolution, but we're leaderless. You know? So I don't even know what that brings.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of chaos right now because, I mean, on one hand, there's people that are saying burn it all down, and then there's people like Killer Mike. You know, I don't know. Did you watch his speech when he was talking to the city of Atlanta?
I did not see it. No.
Okay. He I don't know how to really just sum it up. There's a lot. He spoke really eloquently to the city of Atlanta about not burning down your home. But it makes sense why people are fucking pissed off enough to rise up. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what side do you take? What is gonna create that conversation that's gonna lead to a solution? Like, what is it gonna take?
Yeah, well, you know, honestly, I'm like, hey, the way that these uprisings come about is through a pressure cooker of frustration. And I understand it. Like, so, people can point and say you shouldn't burn down your own neighborhoods. These uprisings are not planned. There are no leaders. There are no generals. It's people filled with emotion going, I can't take it anymore. Because they see themselves as George Floyd. They see themselves as Breonna Taylor. And they're going like, my life is worthless. That's the sound of an uprising. It is not, and it's not one incident that creates it. It's the culmination of many incidents and seeing it over and over again. So unless you are tied to it and see yourself as those people, maybe you can't understand the frustration, why somebody would burn down their own neighborhoods. I tell you what, if you don't own that, if you own nothing in your neighborhood, is it your neighborhood?
It's a good question. Yeah, who owns that Target? And it's crazy how many people are like defending that fucking Target. Like, why do you give a fuck about a Target?
Right.
Did you hear what Trevor Noah, the Daily Show, had to say?
No.
He essentially was saying, I have it written down here, that there's a social contract with the people in power, with the people that it's like, if you hold up your end, then we'll hold up our end. And it's like, the people in power aren't holding up their end. They're fucking murdering people in the streets. So it's like, how are the people not in power expected to hold up their end of the social contract? Like, it just, what did you expect?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, especially now, right? Like, it ain't matter who was in office. The police and the military seem to do what the fuck they want when they want. That's what it looks like to me. So, can the American people, if it's enough people, white people, can the American people bring those institutions to heal? It ain't happened yet. But that's exactly what needs to happen. There needs to be an understanding of the history. Like I look at there's a huge distrust of all institutions by a ginormous part of the population. And a lot of them are Trump followers. A lot of Republicans, there's Democrats, so everybody, there's people that believe that the system works for them as well. There's some people that believe that the system works for them enough that little tweaks can make life better for everyone. Some of these questions, like, can the population bring the police forces all over the nation to heal? I don't know. I honestly, I don't think so. It ain't, I would love to see it. There are examples of police agencies that have been reformed. And to whatever degree, like my man David Moss brought me into the Harold Robinson Foundation, to do things in Watts. And he introduced me to the police in that area and I hang out with those police officers and I see that they care to the ones that I encounter. I don't know them all.
Right. There's,
you know?
Yeah.
But I see the care that they have for the community. You know, I don't know what they do in a time like this. They may just turn into police and it's us against them in their minds. I don't know. But I see efforts. They're not the Watts police officers that I've encountered are not the only ones. So nationwide, in spots, there's examples of reform.
That's good to hear, because the most outspoken people, at least that I'm connected with, are all of the ACAB. There's no such thing as a good cop. I don't really know what to adhere to as far as because you know, growing up and listening to punk rock, I always like hated authority from the beginning, like being told what to do. And that's coming from a privileged white dude, you know, that just, you know, I that shit spoke to me, whether it was hip hop music or whether it was punk rock, you know?
I tell you what, I grew up in the hood. I live in Santa Monica. My local police, you know, they are not the police that I grew up with.
Yeah.
You know, if I ride through Malibu, ain't no police. They got sheriffs, right?
Right.
Right? It's different.
Yeah.
So, you know, like sometimes I see the police in Santa Monica doing things and I'm going like, what the hell? But mostly I see them interact with people with respect. Shit come to shove, it could just be us against them. I don't know. You know, I maybe do not subscribe to there are no good cops. Cause I've always, like, I sang fuck the police with everybody else. But when I put some real thought into it, I was like, okay, I might need to call the cops one day. Like, I don't know.
Did you?
I would hope
when your shit got broken into?
Help me.
Didn't your apartment get broken into? Did you file a police report?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I certainly did. I called the cops there. Yeah, somebody reached in my window, grabbed the guitar, tried to take it out. Was unsuccessful. But and I didn't run outside, chase them down, and kick no ass either. I just, you know, it was, you know, but yeah, I filed a police report, but you know, but bottom line is, yeah, I'm like, you know, but maybe the police forces as we know them need to be disbanded and restructured as something else. Maybe, you know, look, the United States Constitution was not written for everybody. We the people was not including people that look like me. And even if you were white and you were not a landowner, it maybe didn't include you.
Yeah, and that shit I didn't learn until somewhat, you know, last 15 years or so. It's we the landowners, essentially.
You're right.
Yeah.
We the white landowners.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, we have to have open, honest discussions about like, okay, like, you know, I remember Iran-Contra, there was a question about, is there a conspiracy to overthrow the Constitution of the United States of America? You know, that was a question. Right? Well, as somebody that, like, I enjoy the freedoms, but it wasn't meant for me, and somebody's trying really hard to make sure that it doesn't apply to me in full. So, you know, if somebody in the Reagan administration was really had that as a goal, you know, I maybe be pissed because the plan to come after that would probably be fascism, as we're living in something that's beginning to look more and more like a fascist state. But if you were black, maybe it always felt like a flat fascist state. If like,
yeah, I can totally see that.
Like white people are now like oh, it's such a dystopia. Black people's dystopia started with slavery.
Yeah, it's been a dystopia this whole fucking time.
It's American dystopia. Some people are more familiar with it. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, that word was getting thrown around ever since COVID happened. The whole dystopia word was getting thrown around by a lot of white people that were just bored on social media. So hey, I got some lyrics from songs that you guys put out in '88 and in '93 on both the albums Truth and Soul.
Yeah.
And the album Give a Monkey a Brain, He'll Think He's the Center of the Universe.
Yes, sir.
I just want to... What's crazy about these lyrics is they could be written now. So I want to...
That does not make me happy. I certainly wish... I like, we have these conversations periodically as a band.
Yeah.
And it's like, I did not think we'd get this far in time and have those lyrics. I don't know what you're about to read, but
you got I think you have a decent idea. The other cool thing, though, especially Chris Dowd in where did the damn lyrics to that song go? Black Flowers. What's cool about Fishbone is you could tell how emotional and angry Fishbone is, but there's also this like sense of hope for change, like even to this day. Like, so it's a cool dichotomy. Like you have the fucking anger and frustration, but then you have like the love and hope, like all happening simultaneously. And I always thought that was fucking really cool. But listen, I just want to read some of the lyrics to Subliminal Fascism. No, let's go. No, what did I want to read first? Sorry. This shit could, like, here, can I move this over here? My computer's not. Okay, Ghetto Soundwave. This is like right now. There's another cry of murder. Policemen shoot down my baby brother. Shot him down in the street. But did they know the mother's grief? Were they sure they got the right one? Did they know he was her only son? A father tries to feed his family. They come here to find their opportunity, living in the streets with their dreams and their humility. Can't we see the pain and hurt? They love this land maybe more than us. Another bourgeois politician hears our pleas, but does not listen. Never, never, never sees the need, but caters only to his greed. Can't you see there's no use in lying? And don't he know all our hope is dying? Yeah, I mean, I just...
Yeah, that's... Yeah,
fuck.
Bro.
Fuck.
Yeah, that kind of covered current events right there.
and Kendall wrote those lyrics, right?
Yes, Kendall wrote those lyrics.
And so you say you have conversations with your bandmates about that, but like we talked about progress and then regression. It like how do you deal with like that this shit is still happening?
Look, when Donald Trump started running for president, shit got different.
Yeah.
Like shit got different. My daughter was in high school. She had started going to Santa Monica High School. There's a point where she started coming home frustrated because the white kids in her school got different. I didn't expect it. I live in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
I'm like, Santa Monica's diverse, liberal. The shit that kids was saying around her or to her was appalling. I'm experiencing things like, you know, white dudes with their chest out wanting to scrap.
In Santa Monica?
Huh?
In Santa Monica?
In Santa Monica.
What?
This dude in a auto parts shop. You know, like you would look at him and think like that's a dignified dude. You know, tall white dude with a beard, motorcycle rider, but he was dressed smart. Not looking like he's Hell's Angel affiliated or motorcycle gang ish. Looked like a businessman. You know, I'm in line. He walked in the store, walked directly in front of me, straight to the counter. I'm like, excuse me, I was next. He said, I don't remember exactly what he said. He said some shit to me like, you know, I'm like, and you know, like expecting me to just back the fuck off because he showed up. I'm like, nah, man, I'm next. And I step up to the counter. This dude, it begins to escalate. And I'm like, I'm going like, why does this dude want to fight me? But I actually looked at him and was like, you know what, you want to fight? You know what? I will allow you to kick my ass because I could take an ass beating. And when the police come, I'll be laying on the floor. You kicking me in the head. It disarmed him.
So you,
but I knew that if I got him up with that dude, I was going to jail, not him, and that's unfortunate.
Remember that dude that used to run with Angelo and film all the time? Remember all that shit? Remember?
Yes.
Are you at liberty to talk about that?
You know what? I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. That was a horrible one. We could do a whole show on that.
Well, I just remember the whole who do you think they're gonna believe talking about the cops? That we don't have to go. We don't have to go down there, but
that's a long story. But it illustrates everything. Arrogant white asshole causing trouble, daring black people to do anything. Like he actually spit in another man's face, and when he got punched, he called the police.
Yeah.
You know what? And I still see this motherfucker trying to post shit at least in direct message to the Fishbone page. Like I'm like, I slapped the shit out of his ass given the chance. Tried to put my boy in jail? No. And wait, no, I'm getting into it. I didn't want to. Anyway.
It's whatever.
It's white privilege to the max.
To the max.
So I was talking about the changes as Trump, like I'm talking to my boy, the dubber, who's in the Carolinas. He's like, man, Trump is running. He's like, these white boys running around here with their chest out like they can't be faded. I'm like, you seeing it too? Of course he's seeing it. Yeah. He's in the Carolinas.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a thing. He empowered, his presence empowered something. So again, like I'm like, what needs to be, it needs to be looked at psychologically. Like I'm like, okay, like he's like I used to joke like this motherfucker's like NWA, like because he don't give a fuck, and he's like, and people who love him really are now. We don't have to give a fuck, you know.
Yeah, and so. I was talking to Jon Stewart about that too. He said he used to live in Huntington Beach, and he said that after Trump got elected, he doesn't like fucking going down there anymore. He'll go down there every once in a while, but he used to go down there and surf. And he said people were trying to fight him fucking on the beach and shit after Trump got elected.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Look, bro. I actually probably need to make my way to my day job.
Okay.
I got my CBD company needs some manual labor today. All right. But I tell you what, like I was going somewhere and I didn't make it to my destination as far as whatever I was starting to say about Trump, because that's a rabbit hole.
There's a lot of rabbit holes.
Proportions. But honestly, like, you know, there's a lot more to talk about in this, and like honestly, like my sense of history in this, you know, it goes to a curiosity as to what I survived in LA with gangs and police, you know, as the obstacle course. And, you know, one thing is for sure, I want to just leave before I leave to say, like, the practice of hiring racist police officers, racist law enforcement, was put upon LA by Police Chief Parker. There's Parker Center downtown. Forgetting his full name right now, but Police Chief Parker made it a point to recruit officers from racist southern states to come and police the Black and Latino communities in Los Angeles.
When was this?
He became police chief in 1950.
Okay.
Something H. Parker. I'm forgetting his name right now. Anyway, Police Chief Daryl Gates was his driver when he was a young officer. He was groomed by Police Chief Parker. Daryl Gates, who the chokehold that killed many Black people in Los Angeles, that was, my teen years were spent under his police force. Daryl Gates. We called it the Gates of Hell. Daryl Gates, his response to Black people dying in chokeholds was, they're physiologically different than normal people. Black people must have an extra vertebrae. Their blood vessels don't release like normal people. That's what he said to justify the killing of Blacks under his watch.
That's beyond fucked.
So, you know, like when Trump called for the recruitment of ICE agents, all I could hear is that, you know, like my knowledge of Chief Parker hiring, like, I'm like, who's going to sign up for that?
Somebody.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why you have the enthusiasm to put people in cages. So, you know, so you got people in cages, and that's okay. But you can't even be with yourself in a lockdown because of during a pandemic. Like, that's slavery. But it's okay to put those other they're not human. They have dehumanized them in the eyes of people. There's a problem with dehumanization. It leads to atrocities. So,
I mean, that's what they did. Vietnam, World War II. They've been doing it forever.
Wait, William H. Parker. Hey.
Yeah, there it is. It's someone wrote on the YouTube comments, William Parker.
Yes.
That's crazy. So
anyway,
he's groomed by Daryl Gates. That's crazy.
He groomed Daryl Gates.
Yeah.
And Parker, 1950 to 63 or 65, 13 or 15 years, the longest running police chief in LA history. And There's a documentary called Burn Motherfucker Burn, which I'm in.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
They talk about it. There's a documentary called Bastards at a Party, which I'm not in, but it actually answered a lot of questions that I had about what I lived through. And it is under the watch of these police officers, these police chiefs, that I got the world that I grew up in. Anyway, bro, look, much love to you, Neil. I gotta bounce.
All right, well, I'm gonna watch some documentaries.
Yeah, man.
Hey, thanks for being on the show again. I know, like, you know, we've been in a more positive light before, but I'm really glad you could do this. I think people need to hear this shit. It's important.
Yeah, like it. Honestly, I think about everything that we're talking about is in a positive direction because we're actually looking for solutions. I'm not saying I have the answers. If it makes you uncomfortable, fuck you. You know, not you, Neil, but you know, like I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it needs to be talked about.
This is how you get to solutions. You look at what's reality. You take history. You put it all together and you go like, what wasn't working? What is possible? You know? And that's my understanding of how you get to solutions. Maybe, you know, you need a diagnosis. Joy DeGroot. Post-traumatic slave syndrome.
People are saying thanks on the comment thread. And thank you, Norwood.
Much love, bro. Can't wait till we get back to some music.
Yeah, let's make it happen, man. Hey, take it easy. Stay in touch. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, bro.
All right, thanks, man. See you, dude.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. A lot to unpack. I'm gonna watch some documentaries. I think what it comes down to is, if you look like me, fucking open your ears and let's have a dialogue, you know? And solidarity to everyone that's standing up for the rights of human beings. I don't know what to say. I'm having a hard time using my words, but I love you guys. I'm going to end this shit and I'm going to try to learn some more and figure out. But yeah, if you look like me and you're around a bunch of people fucking saying some dumb shit, call them out. Like, it's up to us as white people to call out these motherfuckers. Because there's a meme that was going around. There's like, I'm sick and tired of white people's shit, racist ass shit. I don't know. It's a rough day. Yeah. Love you, Sean. Shonny. Love you guys. But yeah, keep learning, keep talking, and let's be vigilant in our calling out of this bullshit, and let's try to be better people. I'm gonna hit the button. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. All right. I'll see you guys in a couple days or some shit.